When is the best time to take probiotics? I graduated from medical school in 2007, and I figured that I knew when the best time to take probiotics, and I figured that was after dinner or before bed, and clinically I got results, and that's what I've been doing. So I'm curious what you've been doing, and after this video where I actually dug into the research, I'd like to hear what you are thinking and if you're going to be modifying anything. So it's actually not an easy question to answer, and especially after I dug through the research, because the research is actually pretty sparse when you look at actually in human studies about actually answering your question. When is the ideal time to take your probiotics? So as I'm going through, I'm going to be showing you the actual research papers that we are using. That way you can verify that what I'm saying is right there in front of you. And I've got show notes for you as well. So when I asked my supervising doctors when I was in medical school, when is the best time to give the probiotics and which probiotics are the best, they would say different things. They would say that they all got clinical benefit. So does it really matter? Well, I believe that it does matter. And I believe that the quality of how the probiotic is produced. And I also believe that the fact that some people have more stomach acid than others makes a significant impact. Commonly what you hear is when people say when is the best time to take it, they say a few different things. They say take a probiotic in the morning because that way it's away from food and allows the probiotic to settle in your large intestine, and that way you'll get the probiotic benefits. Other people will say, no, don't do that. I want you to take the probiotic after dinner because in the evening you're no longer going to eat unless you're snacking and binging on Netflix. But if you do that, you're no longer eating, then it would make sense that you are giving more time for the probiotic to actually bind to the large intestine where the majority of where you want the probiotics to end up, because the majority of your beneficial bacteria actually live in your large intestine, also called the colon, and that's about 1 trillion of beneficial bacteria and not so beneficial bacteria live. So other people say take it with your dinner because when you naturally eat your meal, that's where the probiotics naturally live, and it makes sense. I mean, if you're eating food, you have bacteria on your food, unless it's absolutely processed and like McDonald's and is garbage crap. But if you're eating fermented foods, fermented vegetables, yogurts, kefirs, or you're eating vegetables, dairy products. But that's where you naturally get your probiotics. But what if you're not eating those things? What if you're not eating your vegetables? What if you're not eating dairy products? And what if you're not eating fermented products? And a lot of you actually aren't eating fermented products because you struggle with SIBO or you struggle with histamine intolerance and those aggravate you. Then you're stuck having to take specialized probiotics and you want to know when the ideal time is. I get it. And so I'm going to be showing you right now when that is. So I've learned some things after digging in the research for 3 days. And I would say that it's important for us to ask the question differently. We shouldn't ask the question, when is the best time to take a probiotic? We should instead ask the question, what are the things that kill the bacteria found in your probiotic or reduce their efficacy in getting to where they need to be, which is your large intestine? So that requires some digging. And so when you swallow a probiotic, where does it go first? First, it goes in your mouth. You put the probiotic in your mouth, and the mouth is pretty neutral pH, and the capsule isn't going to be broken down right away. So orally, the probiotic isn't going to die. You're fine. I mean, very minimal. I would probably say 0% die in your mouth. Then you swallow it, and it goes down your esophagus, lands in your stomach. Now, in your stomach, it's a different story. You have a pH of about 1 to 3, and the low pH is going to actually wreck your beneficial bacteria, especially Bifidobacter. Bifidobacter bacteria, in vitro studies, again, not in humans, but in vitro studies, they've actually looked at 2 specific Bifidobacter, and they found after 1 hour in a petri dish mimicking that stomach acid, all the Bifidobacter were toasted. So that's not helpful. So mouth is okay, drops down your esophagus, goes in your stomach, boom, dead after the capsule opens. And that's not good. And let's say you do get some passage through the stomach. Then it hits your small intestine. Your small intestine then is full of enzymes if you've eaten a meal, and it's also full of digestive bile from your liver and your gallbladder to help you digest fats. Now, pancreatic enzymes are designed to break cell membranes. They're designed to break down and absorb amino acids. And so they are going to bust apart further your probiotics. And the bile is a natural antimicrobial. So you get through the stomach acid, you get through the pancreatic enzymes, and then you have to get through the bile, and then you get to the safe haven of the large intestine. So that is particularly one reason why supplement companies will produce probiotics in high amounts and multi-strain. Some strains, like I shared, Bifidobacter bacteria are highly sensitive to stomach acid. Some probiotics, like Lactobacillus acidophilus, are more tolerant to stomach acid. Saccharomyces boulardii, also more tolerant, I believe, and that's a yeast-based probiotic. Then you have others as well. If you eat food, then is that going to change things? And It does, actually. So look at some research over here that I'm going to be sharing with you. How long does it take your stomach to empty its contents? And if you look at different times, whether you're fasted and you had some water, whether you're dehydrated and you haven't eaten or drunk water, hence dehydrated, or you've had a snack, or if you had a meal. Now, if you've had a glass of water and on an empty stomach, half of your stomach will empty in about 10 to 20 minutes. That's pretty fast. That's good. Now, full emptying of your stomach takes upwards of 30 to 45 minutes. All right. So if you eat a meal, it takes 2 to 4 hours depending on what you eat and how much you've eaten. So 2 to 4 hours to empty your stomach, that's not good. I mean, if you're taking Bifidobacter probiotics and you take it with food, then they're probably dead. If you take Bifidobacter probiotics on an empty stomach with a glass of water, the odds of them passing through, if the stomach pushes that capsule through with the water, increases, right? So possibly taking your probiotic on an empty stomach away from food after a glass of water would probably be an opportune time. Now, a light snack, 1 to 2 hours, Bifidobacter is still dead. That's just the stomach. So as we shared earlier, let's say you took your probiotic, your Bifidobacter, on an empty stomach with a glass of water. Now it's hitting the small intestine. Small intestine, you have digestive enzymes and you have the bile. So you have to ask yourself, if I take it with food, I can buffer the enzymes and I can buffer the bile. The problem is when you eat food, you're actually increasing your digestive enzymes and you're increasing your digestive bile. So by consuming food, yes, you are protecting the probiotic, kind of, but you're also exposing it to more digestive enzymes and more bile, which is actually more harmful to the probiotic. Plus, you're also increasing the transit time to move the probiotic out of your stomach to get in the small intestine. So by that, it's not a good idea to take your probiotic with food, is it? No, it's not. So I have some information further on this, and this is an in vitro study, as you can see, and they found that the probiotic survives really well with water, as you can see. And then juice is worse. Now, is it a lot worse? No, but it's worse. So taking a probiotic with juice, not necessarily recommended. Is it going to destroy it all? No, because your survivability ratio overall goes from about 80% to 75%. So you're losing 5% of your probiotic, but you're also wasting and you're killing it. So that's not ideal. Then they looked at porridge. But again, this is an in vitro study. And porridge is a fancy word of Goldilocks of oatmeal. Now, a lot of people piss on oatmeal and they're irritated with oatmeal because it spikes your blood sugar, which it does, can contain gluten, and then you're not in a fasted state anymore, are you? No. So while this is an in vitro study, and this is another reason why you need to look at in vivo, real life studies versus in vitro, because you look at this and you're like, oh, if I take my probiotic with porridge, I'm going to be protecting it. I shouldn't take it with juice. I'll just take it with water. But hold on. We just talked about that you cannot be taking your probiotic with food. Well, you can, but the survivability will go down because you're increasing the time that it stays in the stomach, and then you're increasing your digestive enzymes and your bile as well. And then here I showed different bacteria and how they work. Remember, this is in vitro. This is not in an actual human stomach. And so Bifidobacter survivability is actually better with just water, which would make sense because Bifidobacter are highly susceptible to stomach acid. So water is the best, then juice is slightly worse, and porridge is slightly better than juice. And then Lactobacillus is the worst with juice. And the juice that they used actually was orange juice. And orange juice is high histamine, and histamine increases stomach acid. But this is again in vitro. But in real life, if you took your probiotic with a citrus-based or a higher histamine-containing food, you're actually going to be stimulating more stomach acid, and then you're going to be killing more of your probiotic. So I would say this still shows that we should be taking our probiotic away from food in the morning with a glass of water, ideally, but we're not done yet. So are there certain types of probiotic supplements that you can take that are protected from stomach acid? Yes, there are. And I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because you should not focus on which probiotics have the best survivability in stomach acid. You should be looking at probiotics that you particularly need for your own specific condition. And I will tell you from experience that I did not know that by taking what you think is the best probiotic on the market, the most strains, the best reviews, maybe the best price, the best packaging, the best rated company, the best third-party testing, etc. It doesn't matter. What matters are the strains for you. Now, let me share a story on this because while it's not pertaining towards how to to best take your probiotics, I don't want you shopping around for which probiotics have the increased survivability. You need to be looking at which one you particularly need for your own health. And the story I want to share is I took a probiotic for about 2 years. It was multi-strain. It was 12 strain. It was 25 billion. It was in a nice capsule that protected it from stomach acid. In the beginning, I was great. And I had good, well-formed bowel movements and everything was good. And then I don't know when it started happening, but I started getting hot. I started getting itchy. I started getting nosebleeds. I started getting slight headaches, but not terrible. And it was probably an entire year later that I realized that the probiotics that I was taking had histamine-producing strains in them, like Streptococcus thermophilus, like Lactobacillus bulgaricus, Lactobacillus fermentum. And once I stopped that probiotic, I was great. The survivability of those and stomach acid, again, is great. This probiotic is great for some people. I mean, they just were raving it. I was raving about it, but I took it for too long and I had some issues. So again, judge a probiotic by what you need, not by which strains are more survivable based upon stomach acid and small intestine and so on. So what you can do to also increase survivability of your probiotics is making sure that they are packaged in a special capsule. So by taking a probiotic powder, you are exposing it to stomach acid immediately. That's not good. So especially if it's bifido, it's toast. So if you have a capsule called a DR cap will hold the contents for about 45 minutes. And if you took that probiotic in a fasted state, that means it's going to move through the stomach in about 15 to 30 to 45 minutes, and it will open its contents in the small intestine, still increasing susceptibility to the enzymes in the bile, but much less so in a non-fed state because you have lower bile and you have lower stomach digestive enzymes in a fasted state. So you want to be looking what's called a DR cap or a sustained release capsule. So if you do that, that's great. So let's look at some research summary on this. So if you look at DR Caps, which is a trademark capsule, it's very effective in supporting the activity and the livelihoods of the probiotic for your benefit. So in a fasted state, using a DR cap, you're going to have 72% survival. In a regular capsule that dissolves within 5 minutes, you're going to get less than 10% survival. Let's say you have 1 billion in that particular capsule. In a DR cap, you're going to get 720 million to move through into your small intestine to get into your colon. So you're going to lose some in your small intestine. So you're probably going to get 500 million or so into your large intestine. That's good. If you're taking a regular capsule, you're going to be losing 900 million to the stomach acid, and you have 100 million left. So that gets into the small intestine. That's going to be toasted, most likely, and you're going to have very little reaching the large intestine. If you take the DR cap with water, the survivability drops down to about 50% because, again, the transit time to move water out of a stomach anywhere from 15 to 40 minutes. And with a meal, you're getting 65 to 70%. So with a DR cap, does it really matter? No. You can take it fasted. You can take it with a meal. You can take it without. And you have a 2% difference, give or take, for optimum. But the regular capsule, if you take it with water only versus with a meal, you're getting 10 to 20% survivability. Now, can you take this a step further? Can you say, okay, I want to increase the survivability of my probiotic with an even better capsule than a DR cap? And I've been looking for a capsule that is better than a DR cap, and it's not easy to find. They're out there. Pharmaceutical companies use them heavily. The problem with these specialized polymers inside these sustained release capsules is they are lined with, what do you think? What do you think they're lined with? Drum roll. Go ahead and comment what you think it's lined with. All right, I'm just going to share with you. Identification of phthalates in medications and dietary supplement formulations in the US and Canada. They line your capsule with phthalates. And it's not just probiotics, but it's fish oil, it's your garlic, it's your magnesium, your vitamin B, your vitamin C, your probiotics, and your enzymes, and other things like ATP and, Venostat, et cetera. And if you look at the probiotics here, you can see these are some probiotics that you probably want to avoid. And their survivability, again, is good because it makes it in the small intestine. They survive the small intestine, most likely. They open in the colon, but they're also releasing phthalates, which are obviously bad. And so I would be not looking at buying these particular probiotic strains. And let's go back and show you the DR cap optimization table where we're looking at gastric pH on an empty stomach and with a snack. If you take a DR capsule on an empty stomach, your pH of your stomach is 1 to 3, which is more acidic, which is more deadly to the probiotics. If you take it with a snack, the pH goes up. And so you're thinking, well, how is that helpful to take it away from food if I'm actually increasing the pH, which is reducing the acidity, which is increasing their survivability of the probiotic, because it leads to the small intestine. If you have an empty stomach, the transit time to the colon is 5 to 6 hours. You're in the stomach, moving through the small intestine, getting into the large intestine within 5 to 6 hours on a fasted state. With a snack, it's taking 7 to 8 hours. And then with a snack, you're increasing the bile concentration from 0.2 to 0.3%, which might not seem much to you, but to beneficial bacteria, it's quite a lot because bile is bactericidal. And so the bile more than doubles with a light snack. And so then also the transit time is longer. So you're almost doubling, not quite, probably a quarter, or actually 5 to 8 hours. That's a significant increase in transit time. So that means you're sitting 3 more hours inside the small intestine and exposing it to bile and pancreatic enzymes, and you're getting less. So if you look at the DR cap protection in the stomach, it survives 60 minutes, 95% intact. Regular capsule disintegrates in 8 to 12 minutes. Bile salts, even with a DR cap, when it's in the small intestine, the delayed reduces the exposure by up to 30%. So it gets through the stomach in a fasted state pretty fast, gets in the small intestine, moves through still before it opens up and releases some of the contents, and some bile will hit it, yes, but the survivability is increased by 30%. That's pretty great. So I really want you to make sure that you are not using capsules that are just regular, and they need to be sustained release without phthalates. And so that is going to have to be you asking the company where you're buying your supplements, do you use sustained release capsule technology in your probiotics? Yes, we do. Great. Which technology are you using? Are you using DR capsules? No, actually, we're using a polymer-based technology. Okay, what is that polymer? I'm not sure. I need you to find out for me. Pause, delay. I'll get back to you. If they say polymer, the likelihood of a theta is very, very, very high. Is it 100%? No, but it's very high. If they say DR cap, that's a go. You want a DR cap. That's good news. If they say, no, we don't use sustained release technology because we use these strains, they have increased survivability in the stomach and the small intestine already anyway, that may be true, and you might be okay to move forward with that. And then you can experiment with it and see if you get good results or not. So this is beyond the scope of this video, but it's actually valid. There's research that shows even if the bacteria are dead, for some reason, they still have biological benefit for you. Also beyond the scope of this video is, let's say it does survive all through the mouth, the esophagus, the small intestine, your stomach, etc., gets in your colon. It's competing with 1 trillion other bacteria. It actually has to bind to the colonic wall in order to have effectiveness. And if you have ulcerative colitis, the ability for that probiotic to bind to the wall of your colon is really low because it's so inflamed and there's so much mucus that you're probably going to poop it out. You're probably going to get some benefit, yes. You probably need to take a much higher potency, much more multi-strain probiotic in order to have any benefit there. But you probably need to be using something else to support a healthy colon. Again, that's beyond the scope of this video. Now, what about if you are taking antibiotics? When is the best time for you to take your probiotic? Research shows that you want to be taking it 2 hours after the antibiotic. Now, is this in vivo? No, but this is according to the International Scientific Association for Probiotics and Prebiotics. I mean, there's an association for everything, huh? But the International Scientific Association for Probiotics and Prebiotics, as you can see here, say that there is definitely good evidence of using probiotics alongside antibiotic therapy. And here's their various protocols. And so you can go to their paper and you can just type this paper here, probiotic use alongside antibiotics, and then you can find it. It's a free PDF, and they have additional resources. So we have antibiotic-associated diarrhea, which is associated with Clostridium difficile, and the go-to on that is Saccharomyces boulardii. Saccharomyces boulardii is a beneficial yeast. You can take it whenever. You can take it with your antibiotic. You don't need 2 hours to wait. You just take it. And I don't know the hardiness of Saccharomyces boulardii. I did not check that, but I would just take it on a fasted state with water, and you can take it with your antibiotic. But actually, with your antibiotic, you probably need food. So that's an interesting situation, isn't it? So if you take a probiotic and it's best on a fasted state, I didn't think about this, then you have to take your antibiotic with a meal. Then I would wait 2 hours. That makes sense. So you get back to a fasted state. It's not in the morning, but it's still a fasted state because your stomach takes about 2 hours to empty, and then you take the antibiotic and you're golden. C. diff is bad news. Helicobacter eradication, augment therapy of probiotics with that is good. bacterial vaginosis. A lot of women are struggling with recurrent bacterial vaginosis or recurrent yeast infections. They go to the doctor and they take antifungals or they take some antibiotics for their bacterial vaginosis, and the dang thing keeps coming back because the vaginal microbiome never got restored. So you need healthy probiotics, and you take that in a fasted state. And you didn't hear it from me, but there are vaginal suppositories that you can use. And actually, you can actually hear that from me. I use them clinically. I recommended them often. It's pretty hard to find a vaginal suppository out there, but they do exist. The problem for some vaginal suppositories is they do use silicon dioxide, which is kind of a sand. So you insert the capsule or the tablet vaginally, and then you are introducing this grit sandpaper in there, which is not ideal. So try to find a probiotic that does not have silicon dioxide if you're introducing it vaginally. Now, does probiotic dosing need to be spaced out from antibiotics? There are no studies this paper talks about, but they say the 2-hour gap. And do probiotics impact the efficacy of the antibiotics negatively or proactively in supporting? And they support them for the most part. And I usually have been taking my probiotics in the evening, well after dinner. So I essentially have been taking my probiotic in a non-fed fasted state. If you eat late and you take your probiotic 2 hours later, that's not good for your deep sleep. So try to stop eating around 7. The number one thing that affects your deep sleep is eating late. So try to stop eating by 7, take your probiotic by 9 with a glass of water, and you're good to go. If you ate late and you don't want to stay up further for 2 hours to get to a fasted state, take your probiotic in the morning after a glass of water, and that should be beneficial for you. And if you're one of those people that just, the DR capsule's protecting it enough, right? You saw the data. The data showed you're gaining just a couple of percentage points between a fed state, a fasted state. So if you're taking probiotic in a DR cap, doesn't really matter when you take it. If you take it in just a regular capsule, you're probably not getting very much benefit, no matter how you take it, unless it's specialty strains. So I hope that serves you. Go ahead and share a comment how you've been taking your probiotics. Have you noticed any difference? Have you noticed that you're taking a polymer-based capsule that you did not know? And if so, go ahead and probably share what that is so you can help people out and possibly inform some of these supplement manufacturing companies that they're actually using phthalates in their capsules. A lot of supplement companies actually don't really dive down into the minutia of what the capsule technology is. They just see, oh, it's a good capsule technology. I'm going to use it. I want to be the best. And they mistakenly expose their customers to phthalates, and then they switch. So, I've made mistakes in my supplement manufacturing business, and, you learn from it. So, and one of my mistakes is I have on the back of our probiotic supplements, which I will be changing, that says take the probiotic with or after your meal, and you may open the capsule if needed. I will revamp that to what? What should I say? The best use. When is the best time to take a probiotic? You should write my label copy for me now. In the morning, after a glass of water, in a fasted state, or 2 hours after your dinner. Ideally, you finish your meal around 7. You have your probiotic around 9, you're in bed. And if you are taking a probiotic that's got histamine-related strains in it, I would be definitely taking that in the morning if you need it. Some people need histamine-supportive strains because they help modulate the immune system in the gut, so it's a good thing. It's not like they're bad. They have their own specific purpose. But if you're taking them and you're getting responses that are negative, like seasonal allergies are worse, you have headaches, you can't fall asleep at night, you're itchy, etc., migraines, your bleeding is worse, you have worse menstrual cramps, yes, that's all higher histamine. Spin your probiotic around and make sure that you're not getting those particular strains, or look for a probiotic that does not have those, and you can take that in the evening and you'll be fine. So I struggled with it. So share your comments below. Hope this served you, and see you next time. Thank you.